Data shows that approximately 9 million Kenyans practice farming. Out of this, 90% practice farming in small scale. If we look at how they are distributed, 60% of these farmers live in rural areas and 40% of these farmers live in urban areas. In terms of finances, data further goes to show that those in low income, if they invest properly in agriculture, they could save up to 25% of their expenses. Data further goes to show that agriculture is the only sector proven that can catapult 11% universal growth among all other sectors in the world. And it is for this reason that stakeholders are meeting to discuss ways to unlock the growth of the agriculture sector. However, in Kenya, agriculture continues to be dogged with challenges such as productivity, high cost of production, and value addition. And that is why I am joined by Chris Wilson, the chairperson, KEPSA Agriculture Board, to put some of these factors into context. Chris, thank you for making time. So bring us up to speed with some of the highlights from your presentation.
Okay, let me just say that from my point of view, one of the major downfalls of Kenya's agriculture is it has incredibly low productivity, which needs to be addressed very clearly, and the issues behind it. Let me take an example of maize. Maize today, if we start at the top, the supply of maize, or the maize consumed in Kenya, is about 50 million bags per annum. We produce 40 million bags. We have a shortfall of 10 million. That 10 million, if you take it in context of the fact that today's maize productivity, the yield per acre in Kenya, sits at the same level as America's did in 1850. It would take very little increment in our productivity to supply not only enough maize to feed Kenya, but enough to export and supply our feed industries as well.
When you talk about little increment, what do you mean? Because if America was here 1850, it means we are back more than 200 years.
That's correct. If we increased our maize productivity by around 15%, which is very easy with the correct fertilizer applications, correct timing, correct inputs, it's very easy indeed, we would suddenly get enough not ever to import maize, but also to export maize. The farmer would increase his income unbelievably, and the processors could make more food for export for all the other industries like pigs, chickens, cows, etc. like that.
However, for Kenya to actually move towards food security, we have to do probably a complete overhaul of the agriculture sector. Our agriculture is rain-fed. We don't major on technology, harvesting, wastage along the road. So how do we tackle some of these challenges and these loopholes that are still holding us back?
I think you're talking to the wrong person about rain-fed only. 99% of the world's agriculture is rain-fed. Let's not hang our problems on that. What I would say is that it's a question of doing the right things at the right time with the right products, with the right inputs. Now, for instance, fertilizer applied at the right time and in the right quantities and the right types can increase your productivity by 50%, just overnight. It's not a problem. We just need to make sure we can do it, and the business of the government interfering in fertilizer subsidies distorts the whole market unbelievably. So, go on.
You call it interference, but today when Peter Munya was speaking, he was saying the government is looking to reduce the cost of fertilizer by at least 300 shillings, and he said the farmers will be happy.
Okay, can I ask the question is, what would that do to productivity? You'd splash on more fertilizer, would it generate more maize? Because if it's put on the wrong time and at the wrong place and the wrong product, it's going to do nothing. And actually, to me, it's a political move, not an agricultural move.
Okay, now moving away from maize, there are other crops that Kenya exports out there, but we're not getting the value of money that we should be getting. An example is tea. Sri Lanka produces half of the tea that we produce, but they make 4 times what Kenya makes. So how do we also position our products in the market, maybe in terms of value addition, to also make the right amount of money for our farmers?
There we have to look at the policies and import procedures and export procedures of this country. Sri Lanka make a lot more money from their tea per kilo based on the fact that they blend, and blending means you import and pack. There is nothing to stop us importing except regulations, and the packaging and everything is also not easily available. So we need to create places whereby we can import all the other brands, whether it's even from Sri Lanka, Malawi, Tanzania, and package them together to create blends that have distinct world global market attraction.
As we almost come to a close, you mentioned that we need to start doing things differently in the agricultural sector with relation to cost. And many people have complained that the cost of production in this country is over the roof. Talk to us about that.
Okay, can we just go back to the productivity issue for a second and I'll explain. If you do the same amount of work at the right time with the right products and your productivity improves your yield by 50%, the cost per unit has plummeted. Now, that's what we need to do. We don't want to run around complaining we're not getting enough money per bag of maize produced. We need to produce more maize from the same inputs and the same effort, because that not just helps the farmer, it helps all the urban population too, because their food costs plummet. Currently, I believe an average urban dweller spends about 40% of their disposable income on food. We could drop it below 30 if we did it properly.
Finally, when you're finishing your presentation, you told the government to stay off your business. Now, today, or rather yesterday, we saw the Presidential Sugar Task Force present the president with a report on recommendations on how to revive the sugar industry. And one of those recommendations was privatization. And we've seen the government also trying to privatize other key parastatals or sectors that weren't doing well. However, you mentioned in passing that somebody should show you a government privatized sector or union that has been profitable. Talk to us about that.
Basically, if we go back to sugar, we have a wonderful institute called the Sugar Research Foundation. If you look through the Sugar Research Foundation's products, call them cultivars that they have developed, they have cultivars in their books or in the ground that will increase our unit production by something like 300%. Kenya, on a good year, produces 600,000 tons of sugar. We consume 700,000 to 800,000, so we need to import 200,000. Now, if you put the fact that our current sugar area, acreage, could produce 1.8 million tons of sugar done properly, then suddenly the whole equation changed. The man from producing his cane into the factory is getting 3 or 4 times per unit. It's just such a wonderful combination, but we need to do it. And the way we can do it, is that all right? Okay, the way we can do it is to make sure we analyze the real reasons for our high costs, not just put our hands up to the government and say, pay us more. We need to understand why. What are we doing that's wrong? Because we are doing it wrong. There's many other countries in the world who do it right.
Yeah, and that's the point, because if you look at countries like Malawi, Egypt, the cost of production is about 40,000 max, but Kenya is about 87,000 per acre, and that speaks a lot to the fact that you said we need to find out where we're doing it wrong, and not just in the sugar sector, but also in maize and other sectors. Do the right thing at the right time, and we'll get the right yield, right?
I agree.
Thank you, Wilson, for making time.